not a full deload week is required. You can take the week off, I just don't think it's of most benefit. And so now let's discuss, what do I think you should do? How should you actually go about doing your deloads? How often and when? And why? Coach Greg, in today's video, it's all about deloads. Here to explain that you're doing your deloads wrong. Most people think you need to have a deload, whether it's pre-programmed or you have to take one when necessary. However, this isn't true. If you in fact need a deload, it probably means you did something wrong. At least for most people. Perhaps the most intense, most serious trainers in the entire world, the top 5%, they need to schedule deloads, but for everyone else, you don't. When you think of a deload, most people think it's a week off or perhaps a week of easy training in the gym, that you should do these every 4 to 12 weeks. However, for the most part, that's right, the vast majority of you don't need a deload whatsoever. When you need a deload, it's an indication that you've gone too far, that you've done too much, that you're perhaps overtraining. It's synonymous to needing a cheat day. If you over diet, overly restrict calories, you have to make up for that. That's right, make up for the fact you've over dieted by adding in extra calories and having a cheat day. You've overly restricted, can't handle it anymore, and so you now have a cheat. Consider deloads to be the same. You've trained too hard, you've pushed yourself too far, and now you're having to make up for it by taking a deload. With proper training, proper intensity, this deload wouldn't have been needed in the first place. However, I do believe there is a modified deload that would be beneficial for most, if not all, trainers. But first, let's examine the typical deloads that people are doing right now. Some people schedule deloads approximately every 4 weeks. This is because they're training so hard, pushing themselves so intensely in the gym, and they're overreaching and require a week off in order to make up for this. But to me, that means the programming is simply too hard. You're pushing yourself too intensely and are of a much greater risk to getting injured. And in my opinion, there is no reason to train this intensely. But to the opposite extent, some people never take a deload ever. They simply don't need it. They are never sore, they're never pushing themselves to failure, and so why would they need a deload? And in this situation, I do believe these people are leaving some of their gains on the table. They're not going hard, going through the motions, and so why would they ever need a deload? If this is you, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to maximize your gains. But if you are in fact searching for optimal muscle growth, you should in fact train harder than this. The remaining people likely would benefit from a deload approximately every 8 to 12 weeks. However, not a full deload week is required. You can take the week off, I just don't think it's of most benefit. And so now let's discuss, what do I think you should do? How should you actually go about doing your deloads? How often and when? And why? How long should a deload last? Does it not seem excessively arbitrary that deloads are always 1 week in length? Why 1 week? Why isn't it 6 days? Why not 8? Why not 10? And so it's of my opinion that if you need an entire week's deloads, you've made a mistake. Perhaps you're close to getting an injury, you're mentally or physically burnt out, and so you've made a mistake. I would say the same thing if you can't stick to your diet and need a cheat day or diet break. If your diet is correct, you shouldn't need a break from it. It should be something you can do for the rest of your life. I feel the same exact way about training. And so rather than thinking your deload has to be 1 week in length, why not consider taking a shorter deload? Let's start with the simplest way, 1 day. That's right, a 1 day deload. If you trained really hard in the gym, push yourself harder than last time, and you're sore, the next day that you're doing that same workout, those body parts, you can take 1 deload day. That may be all that it takes. That 1 day to recover, to go easier than last time, not push yourself as far, perhaps less volume, less intensity, or a combination of both, is all that you need. And so why would you take an entire week off or a week of training easy when all you needed to do is take 1 day and make it simpler? Make it easier. Does that make more sense? The more often you can go to the gym, train, and create muscle protein synthesis twice a week, the more muscle you're going to end up building in the end. And another point I'd like to make is requiring a deload is not always from what you're doing in the gym. Oftentimes it stems from doing things outside of the gym. For example, you went skiing at Mont Tremblant on the weekend. Your legs are sore. Your legs are sore. Are your biceps sore? Shoulders? Back? So do you need to take an entire week off of training because your legs are sore from skiing? Or could you just perhaps take a deload on the leg day? Which makes more sense? And it doesn't have to be skiing. Perhaps you're doing cardio. You went for a run, you played football, you're sprinting, you're doing HIIT cardio, and so on. And you just pushed a little bit too far, and your legs, they're just not recovered. And if you go to the gym and you try to keep pushing, you're gonna eventually get injured or mentally fatigued, burnt out. Then you'll actually need an entire week off. Rather than that, take that one day to take a deload. One day. The next form of deload that I would strongly suggest involves one rotation of your training split. For example, if you're on a 3-day split, perhaps you're training 3 days on, 1 day off, take the entirety of the 3-day training split that you're doing and do a deload. In doing so, you allow each of your muscle groups 1 day to help them recover. You train easier, do less volume, less intensity, allows yourself to get a break. Why take an entire week to deload when perhaps one rotation is enough? Did you really need to recover your entire body through 2 entire rotations? Maybe, but maybe not. Perhaps just one was enough. You can always start with one, and if you need another, well, then you can take the second break. Okay, so let's discuss the exact way to do these deloads. Exactly what do you do when you take the 1-day deload or the training rotation deload, or the entire week deload. Okay, option number 1, you just don't go to the gym. You just skip it, day off, take 3 days off, take a week off. You relax, go on vacation, take time off, just forget about the gym. Perhaps you're burnt out, you're sick of the gym, you don't want to be there, you hate the thought of even going there. That's the time to take a complete rest from going to the gym. If you don't want to go there, you can't even bear the thought of it, then don't go. Do something else. Go for a walk, hike, try something different. Option number 2, you still go to the gym, and this is for people that love being in the gym. I want to go to the gym. Why would I not want to be in the gym? I love training. For these people, you train with half the volume that you usually do. Rather than doing, for example, 6 hard sets of chest, you go in and do 3. By training with half the volume with the same intensity, you're not going to put as much load on the body. After all, it's a lot easier mentally and physically to do 3 hard sets than it is to do 6. In training this way with half the volume, you're still pushing yourself, you're still enjoying your time in the gym, but it's going to be a lot easier to recover, and by the next workout, you should feel fresh in comparison to if you had done the entirety of your workout. The next option, you still do the same volume, but with decreased intensity, about 3 reps less. The sets could look like hard warm-up sets. Nothing taken to failure. You're holding back and not going to failure. And so despite the fact that you're doing the same amount of volume, the workouts are easier because you're not going as close to failure. And the next option, a little less of both. Perhaps you do 3/4 the volume with 3/4 the intensity. You just do a little bit fewer sets and you hold back a little bit. You also will not have to rest as long. You're not going as close to failure. You don't need to recover as long. And so you can go about your workout at a much quicker pace. Rather than being in the gym for an hour and a half, perhaps it's 45 to 60 minutes. Also, if it's Ramadan and you're not eating throughout the day and you have less energy, perhaps less time, this would be an excellent thing to do to help you maintain the gains that you made throughout the other 11 months of the year. You don't have the time to train an hour and a half a day with decreased energy, but you still want to keep your gains. You don't want to lose the gains, take an entire month off. Why not go to the gym and train with 3/4 the intensity and 3/4 the volume? This should help clear your mind, allow you to still be physical in the gym, and in fact keep your gains. And once the month's up, you can then go back to your regular training. Train harder than last time again and try to progressive overload. Another option during Ramadan, you simply keep training as hard as you're training, but you do half the volume. So in essence, during Ramadan, you can in fact take a deload. You can simply go to the gym doing what you normally do, but do so with reduced volume, reduced intensity, or a combination of both. Another recommendation I like to make for people using deloads is to try to do something different. You don't have to follow the exact program that you're always doing. This would be a great time to try out different exercises, to experiment with the other equipment in the gym, or perhaps go to a new gym. Try something different to keep things fresh. You can try different rep ranges. If you're used to training heavy all the time, you could go a little lighter. Could try a circuit style of training, or do agonist-antagonist muscles, like training a set of chest and then training a set of back, rather than doing straight sets, chest, 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 then back, 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 and so on. Focus on the quality of the reps that you're doing. Create greater mind-muscle connection. You're not training to failure, you're training easier, and so it should be much easier to control the weight using very deliberate form. This period of deload, it's great to reprogram the mind to get form back to 100%. If you go heavier and heavier week after week, always thinking you have to add more weight to the bar, eventually your form is going to get sloppy. And so in adding these deloads, these short breaks, perhaps 1 to maybe 3 days rather than a week, it allows yourself to reconnect with the muscle, use greater mind-muscle connection, use better form, and prevent yourself from doing further ego lifting in the future. And there you have it, my thoughts on deloads, why I don't think your deload should last a week, why I think 1 to perhaps 4 days or 1 training rotation is better. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching. Greg Doucette, IB Pro on Instagram. Watch one of the bloops. Also, the Harder Than Last Time supplements. There's more and more and more. I'm telling you, so many. Turkesterone, the Seco bar, protein bar, pre-workout pumps, stims, high stim, all kinds of stuff. Click the link in the description. Subscribe. Click the bell button. Comment for the algorithm. Don't forget, Circle Diet Book, the cookbooks, the training books, coaching plans by me and my team, phone consults. And until next time, I am out.